What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you again on behalf of Football Beyond the Stats and our Movement Play of the Week. This week for Week 9 of the 2023 National Football League season. And this week we have a bit of an anomaly in comparison to what we would typically find on our week-to-week Movement Play of the Week. I say it's an anomaly because we have a player who stepped in on 5 days' notice, yes, 5 days' notice, backup to a backup, and playing quarterback of all positions at that. Josh Dobbs, Minnesota Vikings quarterback, who is stepping in for the injured Kirk Cousins from week 8 and his Achilles tendon tear. Now, obviously, we're talking about a guy who's stepping in, traded on 5 days' notice, having to step in, like I said, backup to a backup, stepping in for Jaron Hall, who goes down with a concussion. I mean, just a really crazy, wild turn of events. And I thought it was really apropos to feature Josh Dobbs here this week because what he did was so extraordinary. Yes, I can say it's an anomaly, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen something quite like this in the National Football League of all places. At this type of level, it might actually be the singular most adaptable single game performance that the National Football League could ever imagine. Again, 5 days notice, and we're going to talk a little bit about why that actually might have played to Josh Dobbs' advantage here in week 9 against the Atlanta Falcons. But you got to imagine he's thrown to the Wolves, thrown to the Falcons, who then obviously were able to kind of have him behind the 8 ball to a certain degree. No one's really expecting much of anything from Josh Dobbs on 5 days' notice, and especially when he hadn't really practiced with this starting unit for the Minnesota Vikings. He wasn't expected to start, definitely wasn't expected to play, and here he is thrust into this situation. So we're going to look at 3 plays, all that took place on his feet, and all that showed who Josh Dobbs is, particularly the creative, adaptable self that he is. And we see it right here on this first down early in the game. And I say early, it's early in the game for him. It's already leading into halftime, 1 minute and 17 seconds to go. The Vikings were really kind of back on their heels up to this point, and Josh Dobbs comes in. Let's watch it a couple more times in real speed. I want you to watch number 15, Josh Dobbs, and see really what it is that you guys are picking up about the extraordinary adaptability that we witnessed from Dobbs. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more as to why I think him making plays on his feet in this way was able to emerge in this fashion because of the lack of preparation. He was able to just sort of play ball, if you will. Again, at the end of the day, players play, and we should let them do as such or as so. And when they're coming in and they're stepping in with less pressure, there's less anxiety because there's very little expectations for him to come in and lead not only a comeback, even though they were only down by 8 at this point, but really lead something that no one would expect from him. When those expectations are so low, it will be less constraining. When one doesn't have as many options on the tactical play sheet, when the playbook isn't as open because the guy hasn't been there maybe since OTAs, it could actually lead to some of this type of creativity. Players play, and at the end of the day, we should allow them to do exactly that. When we really look at this, guys and gals, I want to look at what we might have found from Josh Dobbs. Now, he was making plays, even though the Arizona Cardinals were 1-7 underneath his leadership as the starter there, stepping in for Kyler Murray before he was traded to the Minnesota Vikings. Let's not get it twisted. On a lesser talented, lesser skilled team of the Arizona Cardinals that are certainly on the come up. They are on the up and up, but less talented compared to most rosters. Josh Dobbs was making plays on that roster, and even though the record wouldn't show it as such, I thought he was doing an admirable job making plays, maybe not to this degree that we're seeing, which was just a special day for him, I think, as a whole. But we were able to see some of the true attunement, the intentionality, the adaptability that we witness from Dobbs on this play, as well as the two others that we're going to get in. So let's look at some of the things that channeled this to allow for this platform of his movement dexterity and adaptability to be expressed as such. We see the free rusher coming off the side, off Dobbs' left-hand side, which would typically be his blind side, but he's staring down receivers here over on the left-hand side of the formation. Hawkinson, who's coming right down the seam and likely was going to be open. Another guy on this shallow crosser as well. So he's looking over in that direction and has to be able to escape because of the free rusher closing in hot. So as he does this, we find this little nuance, this little creativity, and I don't want to miss this because it's this type of creativity that allows him to show and shine with his movement skill. But even so, he quickly gets taken off of his plan. And, that was really the kind of the story and the theme of the day as we watch it back through a few times through. He had to be forced to improvise and adapt over and over and over again. Again, he was forced to do that to begin with because he wasn't overly aware of what the plays were. I think he gave Kevin O'Connell and the offensive coaching staff for the Vikings like a list of plays like, hey, if you call this, I'm going to be comfortable with it. And obviously we have to remember it was going to be very limited in comparison to what, say, Kirk Cousins would be running or what Josh Dobbs would be running if he were in Arizona. But again, I think it played into his favor. It allowed him to just play in an unbridled way, to go make plays in a way where he was just kind of playing backyard football. Another thing that I want to point out here, and I don't want to miss this now that I see it again, is Cam Akers, number 31, who unfortunately went down with his second Achilles tear in his career on Sunday. Just makes a block and a half here to make this play possible too. So let's watch 31 as well, because remember, there's going to be those shared affordances to act also. But we can see that Josh Dobbs trusts his adaptability. He trusts his athleticism, and it's not really about the athleticism per se. He's really attuned. He's really intentional. He's really adaptable, and this allows to him being really open, responsive, and creative. Like we see where his eyes are in most of these cases. Watch his head for me, if you will. Remember, we got this dude here who is chasing him and coming in hot behind him. He can feel this pressure as he runs this curve. And again, these are all things that we can set up in a learning environment. 3 chasers here. And then again, an unfolding movement problem in his periphery as well as in what lays out in front of him. So as 0 chases him down, he's still being, and let me get my telestrator out here, he's still awfully attuned to numerous information sources, right? Again, I know I complained about it last week, but Zoom messed with my chi here a bit. We see him attuned to a number of different things. I mentioned Cam Akers making this block on what would be, I think, a defensive tackle, probably a 300-plus pound man. Cam Akers playing running back, not an easy feat in and of itself. And we can see this problem unfolding. But if we put ourselves in the human movement system of Josh Dobbs, we can think about what he might be perceiving. All of this is channeling or flowing into his intentions and the decisions he makes, and those intentions being his aims to act in a given way, just staying so open to create And then ultimately, which flows into the adaptability that we're about to witness. And we see this water-like adaptable nature as he slows down and then just hops on over the dude that Akers just laid out. Like he comes rolling into the movement problem. And like, I just want you to kind of think about how no two problems are ever the same, neither are any two solutions. This has probably never unfolded anything remotely close to this for Josh Dobbs, but he stayed so open and free. And that's why I say that, this is just a really extraordinary expression of creativity at this level. When we're talking about the best athletes on the planet that play on a gridiron, and we're watching and witnessing a guy like Josh Dobbs doing this. He's not necessarily known for this per se. Now he's definitely much more fleet of foot than, say, a Kirk Cousins, the predecessor here at the quarterback position for the Minnesota Vikings. But look at him just moment by moment here with these affordances in the way that he might be perceiving it. I'm trying to get my drawer back out. We can see him just kind of, again, playing this backyard ball. He might not even, to be honest with you, he might not even know Cam Akers' name. Like, you're seeing him dap guys up after making plays, and he's like, hey, nice to meet you. Good to see you. I've never seen you before in my entire life. Thanks for the block type of thing. But we see him just kind of reconnect to playing football in a really adaptable way. So I highlight that because this affordance, this information source, we're going to watch it kind of unfold, but watch Dobbs' movement behaviors as he decelerates again in context. This is context dependent, and then immediately looks to, and I wish we could see this other view. I have seen it on other highlights where the camera is actually pointing towards Dobbs so we can see his eyes. We can see him look down on this dude that Akers just lays out. But watch Dobbs' movement behaviors change. In this little hop to get around and through, he hops from one leg right onto that same leg, and then goes to lay out and attempt to get that first down. Really cool stuff from my perspective with Josh Dobbs and what he did on this very first play. Let me move to our second play here. This is not it. I'm trying to find it, and I'll get there. Stay with me. This play for me, guys and gals, is the one that I think it is anyway. Nope. Thank you for your patience. I'm just scrolling. I have so many scribbles on my sheet of paper here, just telling me where to go because, this Josh Dobbs mic drop from the NFL, we're finding some things that, again, over and over and over again in a 5-minute clip on a guy who's a backup to a backup on 5 days' notice. Just crazy stuff, right? The aerospace engineer major was doing some problem solving that he probably has never actually done at this level. Now, this play, 100% speed, we're going to get into it a few times. This, for me, was the highlight play of the day. Let's watch it a couple of times through, right? And before we get into slow motion, and this is one of those that in slow motion, if we were going to highlight one play, it would be this one as our movement play of the week. 21-13. Winding down in the third quarter. Here we find that Josh Dobbs, again, escaping the pocket, moving from left to right, and really, really comfortable. We saw it on a number of cases. If you watch the game, you saw him doing a lot of rolling to his right, and he really scans from right to left and left to right really fluidly. But on this respective play, let's not miss the forest through the trees. Again, I mentioned that, there's less paralysis by analysis. He's not completely trusting what his eyes are saying or what information he might be picking up about his primary receiver in the read. And I'll show you when we get into the other view of this. But we watch Hawkinson, 87, who's going to be a primary receiver on this respective play. We watch Dobbs look for him. And when this safety right here, and I don't know what number this is, but we see him bite on up to Addison number 3, Hawkinson actually is going to be coming open. And I'm assuming that's the guy he actually should have just pulled the trigger and let the ball go to. But again, trusting himself to make plays. And ultimately, it ended up being for the good and ends up being the tying touchdown because they did get the 2-point conversion after this. So we see him look to Addison out here, but you can tell Addison's not expecting to get the ball. And when the safety, which is now a bit off screen, we'll see it better from the other view, I believe. But you see this cat right here bite on this, thinking that this is exactly where he's going with the football. But look at, you can see how Addison is behaving. He's not really truly expecting to get the ball because I don't think Dobbs is supposed to go there. Instead, what I think he's supposed to do is probably hit Hawkinson. Now, again, I'm not a football tactical guru here, more so about the movement skill and the emergence of it and how that's being organized. But that would be my expectation, that his intentions could have or should have been around hitting Hawkinson, but he just doesn't trust what's there. We see him look to Hawkinson now. He should have probably trusted it, let it go. But again, he doesn't know TJ Hawkinson all that well. Now, I'm sure he knows who Hawkinson is because Hawkinson is one of the stars. But you can see he's there, but super hesitant. And then when things start to close down around him, he's like, screw it, F it. I'm going to just climb the pocket and go make something happen with my legs. The moment Calais Campbell, number 93, gets a hand on him, we see his behaviors change again. And that's why I rewound here. I want you guys to kind of look at this. As soon as he's still looking, and as soon as Campbell gets the hand on him, I think he goes into like this, he flips this switch and goes into playmaker mode. And when he goes into playmaker mode, again, it's unbridled, it's creative, it's adaptable, and he's just that much more open. He has no intentions of throwing the ball right here, but you can see that he's still acting intentionally based on the information he's picking up about this cat right here, right? And as he cocks the arm, again, I don't think there's any intention to throw the football. But when he cocks the arm, he changes the behavior slightly of that defender who has to pause momentarily. And this then opens up a little different affordance. Now, that number 55 does still get a pretty decent hand on him, right? But let's watch this again. Remember, behavior affords behavior. What do we mean by that when Gibbs had said that? The behaviors of one, mutual, reciprocal relationship, channeling the behaviors of another. Number 15, Josh Dobbs, and number 55, the linebacker here. As this reciprocal mutual dance exchange, this information exchange happens, the problem and solution dynamics or the changing states of organization on both sides. Let's watch it in slow motion. And look at that slight hesitation. The angles change, the speed changes, the posture changes, and as speed, angle, and posture change, so does the affordance or the opportunity to act. Okay, let's go back. Let's see it again. I don't want you all to miss this. Let's watch 55's behaviors and what it might mean for Josh Dobbs getting past him and around him. If he doesn't give him that little bit of fake, that little bit of play that he's going to display or express here, it's highly unlikely that feint or that fake, that deceptive action, if that isn't there, it's highly unlikely that he gets past 55, even though 55 does get a hand on him. Let's think about that. If he's just running and just holds it down and tries to beat that guy to the edge, it's likely not going to happen. So by having that deceptive, feinting, faking action, with his arm, no intentions of throwing, it gets an affordance opened up. Again, let's look at the constant scanning from Josh Dobbs. This was one thing I noticed in live real time. His eyes are leading his movement, specifically when he gets the ball in his hands and he has the expectation to go make a play with his feet. He's awfully skilled in these cases, in these situations, and I was impressed by it. Look, we talk about scanning a lot, right? Left to right, right to left. You're not just looking, just like I talk about moving for movement's sake. The more skilled movers, the more dexterous movers aren't doing that. You're not just going to look but not see. Josh Dobbs is looking and seeing. He's actually detecting and connecting to set information sources. And that information source, remember, it could be bodies, like what we see here, but it also could be, and the reason why I paused here, if I can find, it could be gaps, affordances in space that is beckoning. Remember, affordances are not just opportunities to act. They are also invitations that solicit at varying levels or degrees of attraction. Typically for a more skilled mover in space with a ball in their hands, it's going to be information sources. And I told you guys last week, they just Zoom went and changed all my things on me, all my little drawers here, all my little drawing tools, right? There's going to be these information sources, opponents and teammates in the dyadic relationship between those, but also then simultaneously juggling those informational sources with space, opening and closing, emerging and decaying gaps. And that is what we see here from Dobbs. I know it's going to seem like I'm making it be something bigger than it is, but those affordances, those opportunities to act, those gaps are going to be inviting, or they are going to be something that one rejects depending on their action capabilities, as well as depending on the information sources and that which what the player is picking up. Let's see it from a different view here, different vantage point, and I think we'll have it here pretty shortly as it goes in slow motion. We are. So now again, let's look at that, what I was mentioning. When he gives this smoke type action out towards Jordan Addison, he actually plays that fake awfully well. Again, no intentions of throwing the ball there. This play action fake was meant to be exactly that. Let's see here. I want to draw and show y'all. So we can see when he does this action, this safety starts to charge a bit. My expectation is that he should be, again, probably looking to throw the ball out here to, if I could get it to light up, to TJ Hawkinson, who is going to be coming free momentarily, or he's going to be what we would definitely refer to in the NFL as NFL open. And we see that happen right here, right? Like there is a lot of space for Hawkinson, and Hawkinson is very well open, but Dobbs has already moved on. He wasn't trusting that it was necessarily going to be there, and he has already begun to move to kind of going in playmaker mode. He looks at this cat running across this crosser in the intermediate, sees that this dude right here, who he's about to freeze with that feinting and faking action, is going to be right in the passing lane. So he elects to, again, hold it down and move and make it happen on his own. Notice this dude is nowhere about to be in a position to get the football. So the Josh Dobbs play pump action here that gets 55 biting and on the feint and fake is done to do exactly that. Behavior affords behavior, and we see Dobbs in this dance with 55. And this is one of the best views that we can get of it. And again, I just kind of want to show you the layers of complexity here in the mutual reciprocal dance. I don't think we can overdo this because of how special it ends up being. Now we get a better view of his eyes. We can't see 55, but remember, we just saw it from a couple different views. But look at Dobbs. Again, look from right to left. He's able to juggle these information sources, and I know you guys will think that this minutia, I'm making it out to be bigger than it is, but I promise you I'm not. These layers, this is some special stuff here that we're seeing from a guy who's, again, a backup to a backup on 5 days of preparation. Okay. They showed him taking snaps for the first time from the center on the sideline before coming in, giving the cadence, the verbal cadence to the offensive lineman before he comes in. Again, we cannot overplay what it is that Josh Dobbs did and how he did it. Let's fast forward here a little bit now to the last play, and let me see if I can find it. Got to go to 3:31. Fourth quarter, less than a minute left in the game. The Vikings are down in timeouts now, 28-24, and they're trying to make this comeback. Look at the down and distance at this moment, 4th and 7. So this is essentially the last gasp for the Minnesota Vikings if they do not pick up this conversion, right? They don't pick up the 7 yards, this game is over. Atlanta walks off with the victory. No one would really hold any blame towards Josh Dobbs because, again, less constraints, less pressure, less anxiety, less expectations. He's able to go make a play. 4th and 7, he knows what he needs to do. We see, I think it would be Bud Dupree, maybe? Is that Bud Dupree? 48 coming off of the right defensive end position and ends up getting by Brian O'Neill. No, that isn't Brian O'Neill. Who is that? 76, who's happens to be stepping in for Christian Darrisaw. Gets by him easy. And again, we see 15 Josh Dobbs have to go make a play. But he's so adept at doing so. We see him juggle these information sources yet again, just like we saw on the play before. And there's the mic drop moment for Josh Dobbs. Let's watch it one more time in full speed before we go 50% and think about some of the things that we often talk about here at Football Beyond the Stats in our movement play of the week. Picking up the first down. Now, granted, there's still more to be done here, but he is feeling himself, and rightfully so, as he should be. Let's look at this play and some of the things that might have unfolded with it. We talk a lot about chasers coming from behind and that haptic feel, that kinesthetic sense and awareness to what is coming behind oneself, especially when you are a quarterback breaking the pocket, you're going to have pursuing opponents. You're going to have defenders who are coming and chasing. But at the same time, this movement problem has to be solved local movement problem by local movement problem. First and foremost, he knows that this ticking time bomb is going off because he has the free rusher coming off the edge, and he has to just adapt and improvise. The moment he almost goes to the ground, he has become a runner once again. Just like we saw in the first play, just like we saw in the second play. We see it again here in this third play. He doesn't have the intentions to throw the football here, even though Hawkinson, right here on the top of our screen, on the 25-yard line, likely is open, and Dobbs can make a throw to him. With trust and time comes rapport. Right now, there has been no trust, there has been no time, there has been no rapport. Josh Dobbs, the only thing that he trusts in is himself to go make a play, and that's exactly what he does here. He, again, beats an angle on zero. But look at him looking right now, okay? We see this. He is glancing to his left, knowing that he's keeping this constant relationship and that information source. He's trying to ensure that he can beat this angle, this connection, this sensitivity, this attunement to that information source, something we can train. And then having a chaser behind who's also pursuing. And when he does that, again, I want to show you guys this. Look at where he's looking. Okay. He's going to be going movement problem to movement problem, taking in the information simultaneous at the same time. There's always going to be a field of affordances, but also successive affordances. How I behave is going to impact what other movement problem unfolds and what affordances, what opportunities to act are going to be present. And once he does that, we see him looking again. First local movement problem, second local movement problem, and now a third, which we see the behavior and how it affords behavior yet again. Okay, as J.J. Gibson would tell us, behavior affords behavior. How one person acts perpetually feeds into how another person acts. What am I talking about? Let's watch this cat. If I could get Zoom is messing with my chi right now. I'll tell you what, I'm going to get used to this probably by the end of the season. We see this cat right here and watch a few informational sources. Okay. Let's watch this guy's posture, his kinematics. How is he positioned and moving? Let's watch speed and angle. So these relative speeds and angles that are changing between Dobbs and the defender, because this has now essentially become a 1v1 movement problem in space, even though he's about to pick up the first down. He wants to get as many yards as he can. And then finally, let's watch how the interpersonal distance changes and how Dobbs keeps himself awfully sensitive to what affordances, what opportunities to act are present based on this sensitivity to this interpersonal distance. Let's look at this dude right here. Okay. Dobbs knows as he gives this hard cut to his left to then move from left to right. Okay. He knows this guy really can only go right here. So as he gives that hard glance, he has now pulled that guy into this space at this really cool metastable region. What do I mean by that? He has kept his options open. And when he is very sensitive, he's displaying this type of brinkmanship, if you will, where he's operating at the optimal range for him to be able to make this move. And he puts this guy on skates. And you'll see it comes up pretty much completely empty-handed then because of that move that he makes. And now he just is trying to get everything he can. 13-3, everybody else comes and helps along the line, right? And there's that mic drop moment that we see from Josh Dobbs. And like I said, rightfully so. I know I've mentioned it a few times here, guys and gals. Players play, we got to trust them with the capabilities of going to adapt, going to create, going to improvise. And I give the Minnesota Vikings a ton of credit, their offensive staff, to just trust. Now, they didn't really have any other options because there was no running, or, like there was no quarterback that was going to step in. It was probably going to have to go to a running back, I'm guessing, maybe a wide receiver. I don't know who their emergency quarterback would be in those situations. So they didn't really have another choice. Josh Dobbs, backup to a backup on 5 days' notice. It was his fifth team since the beginning of last season. Like, think about the adversity this guy has gone through. He has essentially become a journeyman, but he shows that when he's been given the opportunity to make plays, not only with the Arizona Cardinals over the first 8 games of the season, but here in week 9 for the Minnesota Vikings, you let the players make plays. Sometimes, oftentimes, players are inundated with a tactical expectation. Paralysis by analysis will unfold and emerge because players are expected to kind of like stick to the playbook, adhere to the expectations of that which what you've learned, this knowledge about, as opposed to this knowledge of or within or in the movement problems. And in the knowledge of that, this knowledge within or in these movement problems, you get the opportunity to truly go adapt. And that's why I think like this type of play and plays that we saw from Josh Dobbs just becomes one of the coolest stories that I think I can remember seeing at the National Football League level from a player. Because when we're talking about a guy with his back to the walls with nothing to lose, a player goes and makes the plays. So pretty cool stuff. I think there's a lot of things that we can learn here, that sometimes it's not about the X's and O's, but it's about the Jimmies and Joes that are on the field and letting them be them, letting players make plays. And kudos to Josh Dobbs for doing exactly that and kind of taking the NFL and the entire storyline, the craziness that happens in the NFL week to week, and being the storyline, at least for me, from a movement skill analysis standpoint in week 9. I hope that he can keep it going, particularly with more preparation. Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings staff, keep letting him take the reins off and let him keep making plays in this way. Don't forget what unfolded in week 9 on very little preparation. No time practicing these plays, and he still went and made them. So for week 9 of the 2023 NFL football season, I'm Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi. This is Football Beyond the Stats and our Movement Play of the Week. I will talk to you all in week